Okay, so there's been a lot of drama involving a very famous tango maestro, tango master, prodigy, and he goes by the name of Gabriel Misse. And he wrote a long post on Facebook talking about some of the issue that we're going to cover in this video. And so if you're interested in seeing all of his words, because we don't want to take his words out of context, please click on the link below in the description so you can read the entire post for yourself.
All right.
So here is the video, side by side with the other video. There has been claims of copying or taking directly from one another, but we'll make the case, we'll show for yourself and you make the case on what you see here. So the variation starts at different times, but you can see that it is the exact sequence, the exact steps, the exact order that Gabriel Misse explained in his post.
Yeah. And this is actually hard for me to say because I'm not a professional, but this is something I've been learning since I've been training in scenario as of recent. And the one thing that I see is that with these new performers, that they're not selling the lead and follow. It really looks like they're just doing it like as if they're working in class and they've done it in class. It's not like it's actually theirs, you know. Like there are things that I've done where like I've learned, let's say, a Mingo Pugliese step, or I've learned a Todaro step, or I've learned a very famous figure from one of my favorite teachers. And no matter what I do, it's just like it's like a very cheap imitation of what they can do. And even though these are professional performers and these are people that I look up to, when I look at it, it looks like a cheap imitation. I mean, I can't say that it doesn't.
And that's kind of what happens when you try to directly copy from something that's not your own, or you haven't really learned for yourself, right? And I'm a huge Misse fan. I've been a big fan ever since I started tango. Actually, he was one of the first people that I think I was recommended to watch, and I watched and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I could ever be that, but that is really different and amazing, and it's very unique in its own right. And just to have the audacity, right, to try to recreate something that Misse does is ballsy. For lack of a word, it's really bold.
It is bold, and you know, I would say this. To me, trying to copy Misse is like trying to round up your Ocean's 11 and try to break into like the most heavily guarded Fort Knox, you know, top secret government, you know, installation. You try to come out with the gold bars, and unfortunately, they did not come out with the gold bars.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're trying to copy from a video, I can't imagine like that would be like my number one choice, right? Just like out of all the options, you chose that. Like, I can see like, okay, like you maybe they are admirers of Misse, most likely. And also Analia, let's not forget Analia Centurion is in the video as well, who I just love as a person. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is one of my thoughts is that, so this is kind of hard because what if you're inspired by that? I mean, yeah, it's a direct like you can look at it and say it's a direct copy, but what if like it's that you're inspired and and it's not fully baked yet?
Yeah, but someone argued that the timing, the sequence, right? If it was something that's kind of just like you, so for example, I also grew up like a big Acheval fan, and for those of you who know my dancing in the beginning, you could just tell just by the way I moved, like, even though I wasn't directly trying to copy Sebastian Acheval, for some reason people got that impression just from watching me dance. And no, actually, I didn't go like watch video and say I'm gonna do this movement just like I just his musicality and his movement kind of just went naturally to mine. And when I saw someone like that, I was like, wow, he has the same interpretation I would do. And so I guess maybe there is a difference between being a big fan and kind of dancing in a similar style and then directly taking an exact sequence from a choreography.
Yeah, but like sometimes, like I will actually practice a sequence from their choreography to try to learn something. And I mean, I wouldn't go out and perform it per se.
Yeah, that's a little different level.
That's a little different because like I think that's I've studied quite a bit from, let's say, Julio Balmaceda, and I love the guy. I still can't get down his freaking colgadas.
Right.
I've been watching the videos. I even took classes on how to do his colgadas like twice, and I still can't get them. Still working on it. So I'll have to bug Virginia again. But going to what I'm saying is that like this is to use that as a performance. I kind of make the comparison to comedians where there's joke stealing. I mean, where someone steals a bit. You don't steal the whole thing.
Yeah, it's similar.
But you go out there, and this is not like a comedy club. It's like, because you're getting paid for a longer performance,
right.
This would be like on the same lines of, me going out there and I love Bill Burr. And then I have my own Netflix special, and I'm gonna use one Bill Burr bit, the one about the WNBA skit.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll do my own WNBA thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you have the same execution, the same timing, and the same like pause of before that delivery. I'll still never be Bill Burr, and to make that attempt, it's kind of gross.
I see what he's saying. That I really enjoyed in his post towards the end, which is like the authenticity in tango, right?
Yeah.
It's like the dance was first created to find your own unique path, and people wanted to separate themselves by creating their own unique style or different figures. And there wasn't video at like early, we're talking about back then, there wasn't obviously recordings. You'd have to go to the Milonga at the same Milonga as this one person you really admire and hope that you catch them do the step and remember it through watching it in person. And that was something that, and actually, like, I've heard that a lot of dancers, like, they kept a lot of their secret things in their own bag. They didn't want to reveal it because that's something that they worked towards and figured out on their own.
Yeah, and not to mention the variation. Like, you're mentioning that the variation is very personal to a lot of people. One of my teachers, Carlos Barrio Nuevo, I remember like someone wanted to go out and ask them, can you teach me, can you actually teach me this choreography? And he's like, I'll teach you other choreographies. And he actually said, like, I'll teach you other choreographies, but not that one. That's like, that's specifically like mine, and I made it specifically for me. So I can understand like when someone invests so much time into a variation that it's
your personal art.
Yeah, it's our trademark.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so what do we do about this now? I mean, how does tango get past this? I mean, or is this going to be the era of like variation thievery?
And I can see the fear or the worry, right? It's kind of like, let's equate it to sports, right? In the NBA, right? There are people that do certain moves like the crossover and the step back jumper and these kind of things. And there were people that did them way before them,
yeah.
Right? But now it's become so common that you kind of forget the original inventor, right? And now it's such a usable thing. So it is hard, especially because video just allows people to spread or watch. We have the luxury of just watching all these master dancers perform their tricks.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. Let's just take video out of the equation. As a teacher, right? Do you let's say teach Hiro Konsakata and say, hey, this is from Mingo Pugliese? And is that important? Because I've taken a lot of Gabriel Misse classes, and you could say, oh, I did a back sakata. Like, who's back sakata?
Yeah.
who did the step,
Yeah.
and it's very important for him, for Gabriel Misse, to honor the past and to honor Tango's greats. Now, that's something that is very unique with Gabriel Misse, and that's something I really appreciate him for. But when I look at all of these teachers, I see them teaching a lot of moves and a lot of things, but I've never heard them say, hey, this is Todaro's step. And that's something, even the local teachers, like, do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I know there are people in LA that are, descendants. I know like Guillermo de Fazio would mention Todaro a lot, right? But it's very rare, right? It is not commonplace, like you said, right? To give credit. And it's almost like people are going around, and we live in an age where people don't check sources. People don't check, copyright. We live in an age of social media where people post videos about anything and people don't fact check. People don't check their sources. And so this is an ongoing thing, not just in the Tango.
And, what if I post like an Instagram of me trying out something new, and then someone starts going, oh, Robert created a new step. I mean, that could be a thing now. And it might be unintentional. I'd be like, hey, I'm just working on this. I wanted to go back.
You stumbled into something, you didn't know the history behind it.
Yeah. Or what if what if I knew the history, right? And now it's like, I have to spend my time going, no, guys, I didn't make it this step. Like, this is Todaro's step. I'm working on it. I'm not trying to be Todaro, but I'm trying to use the figure to better my tango.
Right.
And what if it's like, people are gonna go, oh, you think you're the next Todaro, huh? Or whatever. I mean, the problem is like the internet is a very inflammatory place. So how do we get back to, sharing tango and also go beyond this and while still respecting the history and the masters that came before us?
I mean, do you need to appreciate the greats of basketball to appreciate the basketball today?
That's a tough question. I mean, there are some people who do, and some people who say
Wilt Chamberlain.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the sky hook.
Yes.
It's hard for me to say because I don't know basketball as well as you do. But I would say that let's say for judo, for example, there are certain movements that are very famous for certain people, and to the point where the moves are renamed after these people,
right?
Like the Kimura lock, for example, so that's something that
it's so recent. That's the thing, right? Even though we look at it as like the 30s, 40s, 50s, and the 60s, this was so long ago. It wasn't that long ago. The problem is that there's not a lot of
video evidence and
video evidence, and there's not a lot of people that bridge, between the old and the new.
Yeah.
So like Gabi and Natalia, for example, they bridge, but I mean there's very few people that experienced these masters and firsthand and can teach exactly what we're told to them. Right, and so then we just get this other interpretation or other technique that was developed.
Yeah, and then to go to your point, when you said, do we need to know about basketball's history to appreciate basketball? That's something about commercial viability too, because I mean, if you're there giving someone a history lesson and people just want to learn some steps, they're buying the wrong thing.
But that's exactly what Misse is talking about here.
I understand that, and this is a hard thing because I'm very much a commercial guy. I'm very the first thing I think of is where's the money coming from?
With the business.
Yeah, where's the business? How do we feed the beast? How do we get the machine running?
Right.
That's because to me, as much as we want to talk about the arts, it's almost like the art survives
through business. Sure.
So. Is there a way to make history commercially viable and appreciate the greats? Does it have to be within a lesson, or is it one of those things where let's teach the step and maybe mention a name and see who might go, wow, I like these steps. Who's this Antonio Todaro guy? And like, whoa, my son, sit down. Let me tell you about Antonio Todaro. You know, I mean, maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's what we should be doing.
But I guess the other question is, how do we get people to create stuff from their own, right? How do we evolve? How do you find your own style and, you know, create something for yourself, right? Like what MISSÉ is talking about is like, I suffered, I learned, I spent hours, like all this time learning from this person to do these moves and sequences, and it's a part of me. And then I created and used it to my own style that becomes a part of my personal dance. How do we get people to evolve their own personal dance?
You know, and I get what you're saying, and I think a lot of it is having the confidence in your style. You know, even if I were to do like Mingo Pugliese step, I'm not doing it the way Mingo Pugliese did it. I'm doing it the way I did it, and maybe it might not be like great and clean, but it's still mine. You know, and I think there comes a time where you have to stand for your style, and you have to, you know, and you do it enough that you've practiced it and put in the hours that it's your own muscle memory, it's your own body. And sometimes sometimes people go out there and like they become a clone, like a cheap clone of someone else.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I mean, if that's what they want to be, yeah, sure, be a clone of MISSÉ.
Yeah.
But at least look the part.
I think sometimes you become a clone, or you try to become a clone of someone at first, and then you find your own style after that. I've seen many dancers have that thing where they look exactly like this one person, but eventually they evolve to something else.
Yeah, they start bridging out and they start asking questions like, well, what if I did it this way? Or I messed up here, but something better came out. You know, so yeah, I get that. You know, should we allow people to then kind of copy and perform then until they find their own style?
That's a tough one.
You know, I think, you know, my stance is, I'm going to say something terrible.
Oh my God.
No, actually, and the reason, and this is my reasoning, I'm going to say yes.
What?
That we should allow people to copy. And my reasoning is this: we should allow people to copy as long as when the video comes up, they say, hey, this is a Gabriel Misse step. You know, and this isn't ours yet. We're doing it. It's his timing and everything.
Sure.
Give that credit up. But you know, when it becomes ours, it will be ours. You'll know when it's become ours. You know.
Sure.
And that's a very different thing. And as you said, sometimes maybe we're in that spot where we don't have a master, like a current maestro yet, someone to call a maestro because they put in like thousands of hours and everything. Because you know, the world today isn't like the world it was like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, where maybe someone made that sacrifice, or they had the family support so that they could make that sacrifice and just focus on tango to become a maestro.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'll never be a maestro. I have a job. I need to I need to pay the bills.
Survive.
You know, the best I could be is, the best I'll ever be is probably just like a bad imitation of like a maestro.
Oh my.
You know, like if I'm gonna do that, if I'm gonna go the copy route, you know, but instead I'm gonna just be like, you know, the best version of myself, because I have more confidence in that than my ability to decipher like a step from a maestro, because I need someone to teach it to me. I can't do it on my own.
Yeah, it is a lot of time, it is a lot of effort, and that is a good question, right? You have to be able to afford those things, right? You have to be able to afford that time and effort. And I guess for a lot of people, they'd rather go the other route, which is, let's look what the aesthetic of like a Mundial looks for, right? So we want to achieve the look that will win us the world championship in Argentina, right? And there, you know, that will give us the stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Right. And so that creates these carbon copies of this kind of similar style that we judge and say that is Tango de Pista or Tango Salon.
Yeah, I hear you. And you know, there is value in that mentality, but mainly because, you know, for someone like myself, who I know that I don't have a chance if I'm gonna like hone in on a certain style like that, where people have more time and ability. My only shot is to do something very, very different, but still play by the rules.
Right.
And there's gonna be a time when like people are gonna say, hey, like it might not be clean, it might not be like super salon, but that's something different, that's something interesting, and I'll give a few extra points over that in that direction. Should we be looking at Mundial as the end all be all for what is good tango?
No.
And maybe that's where we need to start. Like where we need to start with, what is good tango? What is good tango to us? What do we want out of tango? What do we want out of our own style? Will there be a day when American tango will be its own thing? I mean, not talking about like the ballroom American tango, but American tango can be American tango, and it was derived from Argentinian tango, but now it's
own thing.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
Separate.
Yeah.
That's gonna take a while.
Yeah, well, hopefully within my grandchild's lifetime, we'll see.
Oh, but yes, thank y'all so much, and let us know in the comments below whether you think copying is a good thing. Do you think we should copy other figures and try to make it our own? Let us know. We'd be interested to see what you think.
Yep, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep up to date with Left Foot, Right Foot.
We also want to thank the Tango Room right here in Los Angeles, a very well-renowned place that we hold dear to us, that have supported us in our journey of making this channel for all of you.